Hello everyone, welcome back to Seer&Sundry. I'm December, and this is part 2 of the basics of pendulums. In part 1 we discussed what pendulums are, how they're where they come from, and how they work. In part 2, I'm going to give you all some very practical basics of what to use them for and how to use them. And that's really kind of why we're all here, is what can we use our pendulum with or for to do, what does it do? And so when I teach classes on divination, or when I talk to people about pendulums, the first thing that comes to their mind is Charmed, or very commonly the first thing that comes to their mind. If they've seen the show, they often think of Charmed. And in fact, not a day goes by whenever I'm out selling pendulums at fairs or festivals that somebody doesn't mention Charmed. And don't get me wrong, I like the show, I watched it, I'm a big fan. I would not recommend buying a pendulum just because you now think it's going to work like that. However, if you do buy one of our pendulums and you go home and you find every missing person in your county or state, when you are interviewed by the news about how you found them, please, let them know that you bought it from us. But, jokes aside, that is always like the first thing. And I'm not saying that you can't use pendulums in that way. Now, some of you who have never seen the show are going to be like, well, what is she talking about? Well, in Charmed, I guess I first ought to show you how to hold the pendulum. I hold my pendulum between my forefinger and my thumb, just like that. I let it loop over the back of my hand. Let this swing loose. This needs to be really easy. I do not grip it, and I'm holding just the fob. I'm not really holding the chain. That's how I hold it. I've seen people hold it between their first two fingers. I've seen people grip it. I mean, you could do what feels right to you, but I find just doing that is best for me. So, anyway, back to what I was saying. In Charm, they'll have a map. Just say my hand is the map. I don't have a map available. Google Maps does not work very well for this. And they'll hold the pendulum over it, and they'll swing it, and they'll swing it, and they're talking about whoever it is they're trying to find, or whatever it is they're trying to find. And it'll land right where that person or thing is. I think in a couple of episodes it's even swung across the room to a very conveniently placed globe. Things like that. And I'm not saying it can't work. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying that you might really want to practice with your pendulum before you get to that. And excuse me, I'm going to take a sip of my tea. Okay. So, the reason why I say it doesn't work is because I have seen pendulums used to find things. Just not people. I haven't seen it used to find people, and then I haven't seen it used on such a large scale. How I've seen it is, I'm going to go ahead and confess right now that I lose my cell phone very frequently. And it's always when it's either dead or on silent. I can't ever lose it whenever you could call it and it would ring and you would find it, because that would be far too convenient. Instead, I lose it right when you can't do that. So Damon has a knack for finding things. I do not, obviously. And so he will take a pendulum. He and I both have our own pendulums that we work with all the time. These are for sale. These will be at the fair this weekend. But we use the ones that we have a connection to, and we build close relationships to our tools. So he'll take his, and he'll let it swing, and let it swing, and let it swing, and he'll walk through the house. And when he gets close to, or is right on top of where the thing he's looking for is at, my phone, it'll swing a certain way. And I'm having a really bad blank moment of how it swings, but it'll be different for you. So that might be best that I'm not telling you how it swings for him, because it might do a different swing or different motion for you. So it'll swing a certain way, and then he'll look in that specific area and find my phone. And that has worked several times. So I'm not saying you can't find things with that. I would just say start small. Look for your cell phone, look for your keys, look for your remote. Then start looking for bigger things or more expansive thing. So that is like the first thing that comes to mind when I ask people, you know, how have you seen pendulums used, or how do you think they're used? So, but the most common way I've seen them used, and the most common way I use them, is to ask a pendulum a yes or no, or a true or false question. I tend to go with true or false, true or untrue. And I say true or untrue because I took a class on more in-depth pendulum use, and we were discussing wording. And the man teaching this class said, he's a good friend of mine, his name is Edward Christian. If you're in the Tennessee area, I highly recommend you check him out. He does all kinds of different classes. I love him to pieces. Anyway, he was saying that false is not really a word that can be used when it comes to energy ley lines and the like. That it's better to use true or untrue because of, oh my gosh, I'm thinking I'm messing it up, but I think it's how energy works, that it's not lying, but it can be true or untrue, or beneficial or non-beneficial, but he would not use the word false or lie. So that is where we come into wording. If you're asking your pendulum questions, I highly recommend you be very careful with your wording. Keep your question really short and really basic. And then ask it multiple questions. And I'm going to go ahead and give you an example. And this example came to mind because every fair, and I'm in fair season right now, every fair somebody will come by and ask me if my cards, because I read tarot cards at the fair, have your cards said what the weather's going to be like this weekend? No, they haven't. My cards are not the weatherman. I'm not the weatherman. Now I could tell them what my reading was for the fair, and if it showed that there might not be as much money coming in, or there might not be as much people, then I can say that, well, the cards indicate that, you know, things are going to be slow, and it might be due to the weather. We'll see. That's normally how I do that. But however, I can ask a pendulum about my own personal care due to the weather. And I'll go ahead and show you what I mean by that. Here's my pendulum. I'm holding it like how I showed you. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how I connect with a pendulum with this question. So before I ask the question, I will ask it to be still. Thank you. Show me yes. Alright, I don't know how well you all are seeing it, but for me, a yes is a back and forth motion. And now that I'm moving, it's like messing up. Sorry. Thank you. Show me no. Alright, so no for me is a side to side. And I show you that specifically because I've seen people dangle a pendulum and it will move clockwise for yes and counterclockwise for no. Or it will move, it's different for everybody. So I highly recommend whenever you get a pendulum, before you ask it a question, ask it to show you what it's yes or no, true or untrue. Ask it to show you what the answers look like before you ask the question. That way you can be very clear. Alright. It would be beneficial to me to dress warmly this weekend. So I'm getting a pretty strong no. Thank you. Now, I'm not going to leave it at that. I'm going to ask it another question. And it's not that I'm trying to trick it into giving me a different answer. I just want to make sure that I am very clear on what my pendulum is telling me. Because wording is important. So I said warmly. So that can mean a lot of different things. I'm now going to clarify my question with this. It would benefit me to dress for warm weather this weekend. So I hope that you all can see that. But it's showing me a back and forth, which is a yes. So, and that actually goes along with the weather forecast. It's supposed to be 70 degrees and sunny this weekend. Alright, so that is a basic yes or no, true or untrue question. Another thing that you can use a pendulum to do is to ask about choosing between things. So, say I have 3 or 4 tarot decks, and I'm not sure which one I want to use today. So I'll hold the pendulum between them, and if it has a reaction as I go between them, then that will be the deck I use. You can also use it for things that aren't tarot decks. You can use it for crystals, which is a little bit more easier for me to show you on camera. So here are two quartz crystals. Pretty basic. And they're about the same size. Alright, so I'm going to hold them on my hand so you all can see them. And say I want to use these crystals for a meditation. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my purpose for these and why I want them, or want one of them, is very clear. So I'm going to hold up my pendulum. And I'm going to do it right in between. And it's in between for me. I'm sorry, you guys, if I'm not being very clear. This is what I get for trying to do something on camera without a table. Alright. So I'm going to hold it, and it's going to be between them for me. I hope it's showing that it's between them for you. Which should I use for my meditation? Alright, I'm getting a lot of movement, and by a lot, I want to go ahead and be really clear, but I got a lot of movement for this one. A lot doesn't mean like the pendulum's like, you know, like really going. Now, I've seen it really go for people. Damon can really get his pendulum moving, which I think is really cool, but, you know, for me, a lot of movement can just be, and let me get down here with the bead. For me, a lot of movement could just be this. You know, it doesn't have to, like, rock your world. So that's another way to use it. So you can use it to choose between things. You can use it for yes and no questions. You can use it to find things. The last thing I'm going to talk to you all about on using pendulums is to direct energy. So you're going to use your pendulum like a wand. And what it is, how I use it like a wand is when I'm doing healing. Specifically healing the energy bodies, which are like the chakras or like the aura. And so I'd have somebody lay it on a table, and I would either direct energy through my pendulum towards that and swing it in, say, a clockwise motion to empower or send energy, or a counterclockwise motion for me to cleanse. And you don't have to do that on a person. Say I want to cleanse this crystal, and I wanted to do it in a counterclockwise motion around it and disperse the energy around it. So you can do it for cleansing. You're just directing the energy and the intent through the pendulum. Another thing that I've seen done with these, and I've done myself, is, in case you didn't know, your chakras are wheels. That's what chakra means, is it's a wheel. And our wheels are spinning. And for women, it's supposed to spin one direction. For men, it's supposed to spin the other direction. And I don't want to say which direction it is because I'm afraid I'm going to get it wrong. I don't do this particular method very often. So you can hang your pendulum over the chakra to see which direction it's spinning in. And if it's spinning in the wrong direction, you can use your pendulum to figure out maybe the reasons why, ask it some questions, or you can use your pendulum to direct energy and get it to spin in the other direction. So that's a little bit more of intermediate or expert level use of pendulums, but I did want to go ahead and bring that up because I have seen it done. I've seen people, and I met a lot of people who use it that way, so I want to definitely have that in the video. So those are some basic ways you can use your pendulum. I hope that was helpful for you all. Again, these pendulums are going to be for sale at the fair this weekend. These are not my personal ones. And I really appreciate you all watching. Thank you all. Please ask any questions that you have for pendulums either below in the comments, or feel free to message me. My contact information, Facebook, Twitter, website, email, all that's going to be in the description box below. So thank you all for watching. Blessings.